Hey guys, it's Justin back with an engineer's perspective, and today I'm attempting to reshoot the Sharpening Progression 102 video. I shot the 101 and then I was feeling really good and motivated. So then I attempted to do the 102, but I just got really into the weeds and I didn't feel great about how well I drove the points home, how well I, kind of laid it out. So I renamed it 103, and that's just going to be what it is. But I wanted to still do the 102 that captured more of what I wanted to transmit. So this is that. So I've got some different stones, some different knives, and let's kind of get into it. So how to choose your sharpening progression. So there's two main aspects to it, and then maybe another, but the two main ones are is where do you want to be and where are you now in terms of the edge that you want. So what kind of edge do you desire and what kind of edge does it have on now? So what do I mean by that? So I've got a kind of a selection here that I like different edges on. So let's take the high end, I guess. So a kitchen knife, an AUS-10 here at like 5960 Rockwell. So a knife like this is basically, I want there to be as refined as I can with just enough bite. I'll move the camera a little bit. Just enough bite to get through some of those tougher skins like on tomatoes and peppers. So what that means is I'm gonna be shooting for a higher grit edge on this. I want it to be pretty refined. So on kitchen knives with that higher grit edge, I'm shooting for like 5K, 3K to 5K on a Japanese waterstone. So like here is a 3000 grit Chaucera stone right here. So I know I'm gonna want to get that finish, and I almost always just end with the strop. So I don't even include the strop as like my progression necessarily. But some people will really progress through strops. But anyways, so I know I want to get to that 3K, 5K range and then end on a strop. So I find out where I'm going to end. And now let's think about where I'm beginning. This is a kitchen knife, okay? I'm not cutting through like cardboard and very abrasive materials that are substantially dull. Now, some cooks do. So like some of my family members, without really pointing out who they are, will cut on glass, not immediate family, my wife knows my preferences with that, but they'll cut on like glass cutting boards and ceramics and things like that, and it'll just completely destroy and flatten out the edge. So you've got a lot of work to do to repair that. But for my kitchen knives, it's usually minimal amounts of repair. So if I'm ending in a 3K and I've only got minimal amounts of repair, that means I can probably fix this dull edge with like a 800 to 1000 grit stone. So using the rules of thumb, I've got a 3K stone here. I'm gonna roughly divide that in half. So that would put me around 1K, 1.5K. And I know that a 1K stone is enough to establish this edge because it's not very dull. So that's my progression. It's going to be a 1K. So standing in for that is this Veneve diamond stone here. 1K, 3K, strop. So it's 2 stones, 1 strop. So both of those rules are hit, right? Now let's do the scenario of me sharpening that family member's knife where it's severely damaged. So I still want to be at the 3K, but it's so damaged, I know that I'm going to need a lower grit stone. So in this example, let's say a DMT coarse. That's 325 grit. So if I want to make it to a 3K, but I know I need to start at a 325 grit, then let's fill in the jumps in between. So if I go from 325, double that would be 700, and then 700 to 3K. So 700 to 3K can be a little bit of a big jump depending on the stones. So you can adjust. You could go from 325 up to say 800 grit and then go up to the Chaucera 3K. So like what I would do in real life would be this 325 DMT, and I'd go to an 800 grit Chaucera because that 800 grit cuts really fast, and then I'd go up to this 3K strop. So I would be the 325, this is going to stand in for the 800 grit 3K strop. So now it's a 3-stone progression with the strop because it's starting at a worse area, but I'm getting to the same point. And then if you wanted to say finish at like, you know, a 10K stone, I don't know why, then it would be 3K, 10K strop sort of a thing. And then you'd have 4 stones in that progression. So yeah, so that's a kitchen knife example. Here's a hunting knife, Benchmade Steep Country. This is their new one. So the edge I like on this S30V is I like it to be on the aggressive side, but slightly refined. So an example of the edge I like on this Benchmade S30V is I like a diamond edge, but slightly more refined. So I know I want to end on like either this DMT extra fine or this Veneve diamond stone, and this is about a 1200, 1500 grit equivalent, and this is like a 1200 grit. So I know I want to end there. So then if I have that, half 1200, that gets me to 600. So the DMT fine is a 700-ish, 600 to 700-ish stone. So this is not going to be enough cutting power probably to reform this edge, especially if you break down a bunch of big animals and they're covered in dirt and mud. So I know I can't just work with one stone here, so I'm going to back off and use this 700 grit stone to reset the edge, and then go up to this and then end on a strop. So you see how I did that? I knew I wanted to end with 1200, half it to 600 puts me right here, and there you go, progression. And then lastly, I've got more like EDC blades here. So like on M390 and like K390 10V Maximate, just all those. I know that for EDC tasks, I really prefer a really sweet, sticky, aggressive, like 700 grit edge. So now in this case, I'm ending on this stone. This is where I want to end up. But on a steel like K390 and Maximate, they're so hard, they're so full of vanadium carbides, and even M390 has a lot of carbide, and this one's pretty hard, is that if I just start on this 700 grit stone, it takes a long time to develop a really quality burr. So let's half that, because I know I need a coarser stone, brings me down to this 325 grit stone here. So now for like K390, I'm going to go 325, 700, and strop. And that pretty much will take care of it. So then conversely, so I talked about the high carbide, harder steels. Now something like 154 CM, fairly hard, fairly high carbide in terms of what, like compared to 420 HC and steels like AUS-10. But honestly, this steel, I still like that 700 grit edge, but I know I don't need to go down to this core stone. So this is a case where I'd have a 1-stone progression. 700 grit, strop, done. That's it. Because I know where I need to start and end is going to be here. So, well, this camera is so catawampus. I'm sorry, you guys. So I hope that kind of made sense. Yeah, I think it did, but I'll watch it and decide. So yeah, that's how I go about determining my progressions for my different knives. And just through use, you'll discover what end result you like for that particular use in steel. So depending, if I had a hunting knife in different steel, I might like a different edge than I do with this S30V and things like that. And then one last tiny little note I wanted to interject here is that the type of abrasive is going to matter in terms of where you want to end. So like, for example, I've got what's basically an 800 to 1,000 grit resin bonded diamond here, and we'll go this side. So I've got like the 1,200 grit resin bonded diamond here, whereas I've got like a DMT diamond plate. So this resin bonded diamond will leave less deep scratches than this diamond plate will, because the diamond plate, they're just like sticking up in there, whereas it's impregnated into this resin. And with that, the edge that results will feel more refined on the resin diamond, and it'll be more aggressive feeling on the diamond plate. So you can kind of decide for that 1,200 grit edge if you like the way the diamond plate feels or the resin feels. And then same goes for like this 700 grit stone. I have an 800 grit Chaucera that's like this one, right? And that 800 grit Chaucera feels a lot different than this diamond plate does after you sharpen it. So you can decide which of those type of 800 grit edges you like for that steel and whatever you're using it for. So you can take that into account, and I kind of go into that in the 103 video. So yeah, that's how I choose my progression. I hope this was informative, and I appreciate you watching. Have a good one. Bye.